Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen. The media secretary hasn't got a clue about the biggest media story in the UK this week. Sonsdar. But this is the reality of Labour MP Lisa Nandy in a live television interview today. Of course, the talk of the town this week has been the BBC being exposed for having doctored on a clip of Donald Trump to make him look like he was inciting violence. Lisa Andy again just tiptoed around it and said that she doesn't really know too much about it. It's her __ job, quite frankly. It's her actual job. And even on that, she could have given her views on the ethics of re-editing news footage that had the intention of deceiving viewers. She didn't do any of that. Instead, she directed her outrage towards Ofcom because Nigel Farage appears on GB News. Yes, we're going to get into this, guys, but as always, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. UK's media secretary, Lisa Nand, asked by BBC Laura Kay for her views on BBC doctoring Trump's speech. I haven't seen the full version of the interview versus the clips that Panorama showed. Have a watch. Now, right now, in all over this morning's papers, the BBC is under fire for decisions made about its news coverage. One of the particular claims is about what's described as a misleading edit about a Donald Trump speech from the day of the Capitol riots in 2021. I just wonder, have you watched it, and did you think it was misleading? I have watched it. What I haven't seen is a full version of the interview versus the clips that the Panorama program showed, but I have discussed a range of issues that were raised in the email that was leaked to the BBC. It isn't just about the Panorama program, although that is incredibly serious. There are a series of very serious allegations made. The most serious of which is that there is systemic bias in the way that difficult issues are reported at the BBC. I've spoken to the chairman this week. I am confident that he is treating this with the seriousness that demands. My concern about what is happening at the BBC is twofold. The first concern that I have is that in all of these areas, whether it's Israel, Gaza, whether it's the concerns that were raised this week about the way they report on trans people, or on this issue about President Trump, that what tends to happen at the BBC is that decisions about editorial standards, editorial guidelines, the sort of language that is used in reporting is entirely inconsistent. It doesn't always meet the highest standards. It's not always well thought through, and often it's left to individual journalists or news readers to make decisions. That's something that I have discussed at length with the Director General and the Chair, and something that I expect them to grip. But my second concern about the BBC is that increasingly they're operating in a news media environment where news, in fact, is often blurred with pick and opinion. And I think that is creating a very, very dangerous environment in this country where people can't trust what they see. And I was very disappointed recently that Ofcom decided not to proceed with proposals to take action on politicians presenting the news. I am looking as the Culture Secretary at what we can do as a government to deal with this. We can't continue with a situation where people can't trust what they say. But you're raising a concern that's not something that happens at the BBC. Politicians do present on other outlets in our sector, but that's not something that happens at the BBC. Like, shouldn't you have watched this pretty much straight away? It's extraordinary. Dereliction of duty, to be fair. The arrogance and the lack of self-awareness knows no bounds with these Labour politicians. So why I get from this that the BBC journalists, editors, and producers deliberately falsifying narrative is the fault of other news outlets and politicians. Again, this is her job, and she's so obsessed with Ofcom and Nigel Farage appearing on GB News. Okay, so they're fault for all of this. But the main thing here as well, firstly, she's neglected what she's doing in terms of her actual work and her own duty. But more to the point is, I don't care what the Guardian say. I don't care what the Guardian say, or like a proper left-wing publicist. I don't care really how they portray their news. It's super left-wing, and I choose not to read it. I don't care what GB News do. I don't care what Telegraph do. I don't care what The Sun does. I don't care what it does. I don't really care what Sky does, etc., etc. The reason why I care about the BBC is because British citizens are forced into paying this __ in terms of the TV license. It's the state. It is the state broadcast, right? It's meant to be completely non-biased and shouldn't be leaning in any political direction, considering that essentially people are forced to pay for it. So I don't give a toss what the Guardian do on one side, what GB News do on the other side. It doesn't matter. But the BBC, if they want to go down that narrative and be a left-wing, then __, scrap the TV deal. Make it a subscription service. Oh, no, you won't because it will go freaking bankrupt. But yeah, more on the point of Lisa Andy as well. Like she is so out of touch. I mean, while she did say that she's not really seen the clips, I do believe that is completely irrelevant despite her, that being her job. She could have still came out on live television and given her views on the ethics of re-editing the news footage to make the president-elect seem to be inciting violence and completely misleading and deceiving viewers, which I find absolutely scandalous. Now, following this, of course, Bev Turner has fired shots back with regard to everything else as they came after Sir GB News as such. And I know some people don't necessarily like it whether politicians should be giving the news out and whatnot. But again, she's doing her best now to try and get Ofcom to sort of monitor this sort of stuff and try and get involved in bringing GB News down. This is what Bev Turner had to say. Oh my God, Lisa Nandy trying to criticize BBC News, but cannot help herself inadvertently swerving off to talk about GB News. We are the channel that embraces a blend of news and personal opinion in order to create powerful, honest debate on the issues that matter. That is not a fact or problem at the BBC. Their issues are aboard a bias of editorial oversight. We are the channel who have insightful MPs hosting shows. There's a reason we are now the most watched news channel in the UK. People relate to us and we reflect their lives. Do you share my suspicion that the BBC's propagandizing is going to see GB News being punished? The Andy do not even think about punishing us for mistakes of the BBC. The public knows the difference. So yeah, she wants tighter restrictions and will use BBC as a scapegoat. It's only the BBC that are going on about this, to be fair. And they've certainly got a narrative which is absolutely frustrating. But she's certainly out of depth and it must run deep within the Labour Party, because David Lambie seems to be in charge of the jails and justice. He's got hundreds of prisoners roaming free on his watch despite it being his job. Rachel Reeves. Well, she's obviously not looked at the Labour manifesto ahead of the budget. So it's well on cue for Labour. They've all got these roles in certain jobs, and they have no idea what's going on. It's absolutely mental when you think about it that way, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers. But we'll see what happens with them and her pushing Ofcom to stop politicians from presenting and whatnot. But there's certainly bigger issues than MPs appearing on TV shows, you know. It doesn't necessarily matter that much considering, you know, as long as they're getting factual information, in my personal opinion. Now,